So I was watching the Panther Morning News on Thursday, and when I heard the singing of the I Love You song from the Spelling Bee, and of course the scene has you with Olive and her mom and her dad singing. The verse that caught me was sung by Olive's mom when she talked about Olive being that perfect child, or her desire for Olive to be that perfect child. I think all of us know how difficult it is to live up to those kinds of expectations in our own lives, particularly if they're rendered by our parents. So what ends up happening? We end up trying to prove ourselves to our parents, thinking that somehow if we do that, to seek their love and approval, that somehow we have to be this perfect child. And sometimes, if I could think of just even my own life, that I very often have fallen short of their perfect expectations of us. We here at St. Mary's continue to struggle what that means as far as perfection. We struggle here at St. Mary's in that less than perfect circumstances that we have found ourselves over these past year or so. It's kind of hybrid classes, and then we think about that class of 2021 that's got to take part in graduation rituals that'll be different from others in years past. Senior balls, baccalaureates, graduations, goodbyes, we wish we could all be perfect again, but it's not. I mean, earlier this week we just got word that we can get rid of our masks. I think most of us still have our masks on, I'm guessing. So even that ain't happening anytime soon, I'm gathering. So you think about what life as teenagers are like and the kind of things that you have had to endure over these past few. I was just kind of curious to see what was life like for a teenager back in the time of St. John Baptist de La Salle. So I Googled what life was like in 17th century France in the 1600s, where our founder, St. John Baptist de La Salle, remember that's question number one, by the way, you got that right. In what context did he live? So you got to understand that there was no teenage life back in those days, essentially. I mean, that was kind of what St. John Baptist de La Salle was trying to address. I mean, you basically grew up and you worked in the fields, and that was about it. So I'd venture to say that being a teenager back in the days of St. John Baptist de La Salle was less than perfect. So, and we, in the context of our own lives, know how less than perfect our society has been. We've seen that in a more profound way over this past year or so with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. We see that more recently with the kind of violence that's directed towards Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. So we know that we, who are touched and inspired by the work of St. John Baptist de La Salle here at St. Mary's, have this equal invitation to try to bring that kind of healing to a less than perfect world. So on this Founders Day, may we here at St. Mary's always continue to be a place where we try to educate ourselves and educate others of what it means to be a healing presence of Christ in the lives that we touch. To be open to listening and learning about each other. We hear in that opening prayer, as it prays for those of us who are involved in La Salle education, that we continue to devote ourselves to a human and Christian education of the young. So as we remember St. John Baptist de La Salle, we're reminded, of course, once again, as we always are, not just so much on a day like this, but in who we are as a LaSallian institution, those LaSallian core principles. 1, respect for all persons. 2, concern for the poor and for social justice. 3, quality education. 4, inclusive community. And 5, faith in the presence of God. So in today's Mass, on this 302nd anniversary of the founder's passing, we hear of folks who had Paul's back in our first reading from Acts. Priscilla and Aquila, friends of Paul, taught Apollos the way of Christ, who then supported the work of Paul in spreading Christ's message. I'd like to say on this Founders Day, St. John Baptist de La Salle has our back in helping us to live Christ's call for us. So if you get a sense of that gospel comes to us from the 16th chapter of John. It's often referred to as the farewell discourse. Ask and seek God's guidance in whatever you do. Know that people like St. John Baptist de La Salle ask for and receive guidance on how he and we are called to live our lives as followers of Christ, embracing teachings, Jesus' teachings, in a way that fits his value as an educator. Now here at St. Mary's, you've been instilled with a set of values that you'll carry for the rest of your lives. As our founder, St. John Baptist de La Salle, responded to God's invitation to him, how is God calling you to be of one heart, one commitment, and one life as a St. Mary's community? How can you give? how can you commit your heart to enriching our one St. Mary's family, particularly at this very difficult, unusual, and very trying time? You know, this continues to be our new normal, in spite of the fact that we're supposed to be wearing or not wearing masks or whatever. Yet in this new normal, this is still an invitation for us to continue to be more patient, kinder, gentler, present, understanding, and compassionate. Can we be inspired by St. John Baptist de La Salle to reach out in mercy and compassion to those who you see are in need? Who might be the folks in your particular setting? Think of a friend or a family member or someone in your sphere who is in that kind of need. Okay, all right, were you able to answer those questions that you had on Thursday? You found out the answers yesterday, no doubt. Who's our patron saint? St. John Baptist de La Salle. Hello, the answer was part of the homily. Now, the other one, I don't know whether we got it or not. How many fires? One, right? Three? So it was I think it was the palace, right? When the palace burned down. And what, St. Joe's Hall burned down? No. Brick pile. Brick pile burned down? No, a brick pile was condemned. I don't think it burned. The brick pile did? Oh, Lord. Oh, the one when the brick pile was down over in Oakland. Sorry, forgot. We were in Oakland and then San Francisco beforehand. So, okay, was it twice, brother? Three? Twice. Okay, so now you know. So we continue to be, let alone whether or not, how do I make this end? Because it's not on the teleprompter. All of our lives are called to be on fire for Christ. All of our lives are invited to be inspired by people who made a difference in our own lives because of the fire that they felt in their own hearts for doing Christ's work. St. John Baptist de La Salle had that fire in his heart, and we are recipients of the warmth of his love by the way in which he followed Jesus. St. John Baptist de La Salle, live Jesus in our hearts.